There is a silence that follows every collapse. Some call it despair, but sometimes it's just the sound of the soul, waiting to remember itself.
God is dead. With those three words, Nietzsche struck a match that still burns across centuries. He was not celebrating a murder, he was naming a collapse. The old sky had cracked. The meaning that once descended from heaven no longer reached the ground. The human being, unanchored, was left to drift in the ruins of certainty. But the death of God was never just a historical event. It was a psychic earthquake, and its aftershocks still move through every soul that asks why. When belief falls silent, something else begins to whisper. Not in churches, not in creeds, but in dreams, in the depths where symbols breathe. That whisper says, the divine has not vanished, it has changed address. What Nietzsche saw in the outer world. The crumbling of values, the end of transcendence. Unfolds inward as a transformation of the psyche. The sacred, once projected to the heavens, now seeks resurrection inside the human mind. You can feel it. The faint echo of something vast. A pressure beneath thought. A memory older than language. This is where our story begins. In the silence that follows the death of God. And in the first tremor of a soul. Learning to rebuild its temple from within. When a God dies, it does not disappear. It decomposes into symbols, impulses, obsessions. It begins to live through us, as if the divine were trying to remember itself inside the human. Carl Jung once wrote, "The gods have become diseases." He meant that what humanity once worshipped, it now suffers from. When the myth leaves the temple, it returns as tension in the body, as unrest in the mind. The lightning of Zeus becomes the modern will to dominate. Aphrodite's flame turns into the fever of addiction and desire. Ares marches through boardrooms and comment sections. The divine has not vanished, it has migrated. From heaven into the nervous system. From ritual into repetition. From faith into symptom. The death of God was not the end of religion. It was its mutation. We thought we had outgrown myth, but it had only changed its mask. Now the same forces that once moved empires move silently beneath our skin, speaking in anxiety, compulsion, and the ache to control what cannot be controlled. What used to be called possession, we now call disorder. And yet the voice is the same. An unlived God, knocking from inside the psyche, asking to be seen again. So perhaps the real heresy was never the killing of God, but pretending we could live without him. Every revelation has its cost. Nietzsche looked too closely into the void, and the void looked back. He saw that when God dies, the world does not go dark. It goes mad with light. Each human becomes their own sun, burning alone in private orbit, worshiping their reflection in the mirror of chaos. He tried to bear it, to create value out of will alone. But the will is a fire that consumes its carrier. The prophet of the new dawn was blinded by his own sunrise. And yet, the descent he mapped was not only his. It was the descent of consciousness itself. The collective fall into self-awareness. Without myth, without anchor, without sky. But in that same darkness, something ancient began to stir. A memory older than belief. A movement deeper than thought. As the last temples crumbled, the psyche began to build new ones. In dreams, in symbols, in the quiet rebellion of imagination. The question was never simply whether God is dead. The question was, can the human soul survive his absence? Somewhere, in the ruins of certainty, a new kind of light flickered. Not the light of heaven, but the light of awareness. Learning how to see in the dark. When the outer heavens fall silent, the sacred turns inward. It does not vanish. It migrates. What once was worshipped as distant and divine, now breathes inside the human mind. Dreams become scriptures written in secret language. Symbols rise like prayers no priest can translate. The unconscious, that vast and wordless ocean beneath reason, becomes the new sanctuary, a place where forgotten gods still move, not as idols, but as instincts, as images, as voices calling us to wholeness. The soul begins to remember what the mind forgot. That meaning was never a gift from heaven, but a dialogue between the visible and the invisible. This is the birth of the inner religion, not one of dogma or doctrine, but of encounter. You no longer kneel before the divine. You meet it in yourself. You no longer beg for redemption. You create it, moment by moment. Each time you face what lives beneath your mask. The old prophets spoke of revelation as light descending. Now it rises from below, emerging through dreams, art, intuition, suffering. The psyche's own liturgy. The temple has changed shape. Its altar is your attention. Its ritual is awareness. And its God is whatever awakens when you listen. Every light casts a shadow, and even the death of God could not erase his silhouette. When we stopped believing, the archetypes did not die. They descended into our systems, our screens, our politics, our desires. The sacred re-entered the world through back doors and broken wires. We traded cathedrals for corporations, priests for influencers, rituals for routines. But the hunger stayed. Without the gods above, we began to build them below. In money and ideology and the cold perfection of machines. We worshipped algorithms and called it progress. We obeyed markets and called it freedom. We prayed to the mirror and called it self-love. The divine, repressed, returns as possession. The urge to control, to dominate, to be certain. These are the new commandments of a species that can no longer kneel. Every revolution becomes religion again. Every utopia a church without forgiveness. We have become theologians of our own egos, preaching logic, consuming faith, starving quietly for transcendence. Look closely at the world today. The rage, the loneliness, the endless noise. This is not the absence of the sacred. It is its distortion. The shadow of God still moves among us, seeking form, seeking recognition, seeking the courage of one soul, willing to face what it once worshipped. Out of silence, something begins to rise. Not a new religion, not another God, but a new relationship with what was never lost. The sacred has learned our language. It speaks now through awareness, through art, through the fragile courage of becoming conscious. To live after the death of God is not to live without meaning. It is to accept that meaning must be made, forged in the tension between the finite and the eternal. Every dream you honor, every truth you refuse to betray, every act of creation born from honesty. These are the new prayers. When Nietzsche declared that God was dead, he was describing the fall of the heavens. When humanity began to listen inwardly, it discovered that the divine had not vanished. It had moved its throne into the depths of the soul. To awaken is to become a caretaker of that inner fire, to hold it without arrogance, to serve it without fear. The future is not waiting above us. It is unfolding inside us. Each moment of awareness is a small resurrection. So when you feel the void press in, remember, it is the echo of something vast, asking to be born again through you. The temple was never destroyed. It only changed address. Its pillars are your breath. Its altar, your attention. Its light, your willingness to see.
If you have watched all through here, thank you. I'm a night soul, and these are the thoughts that keep me awake by day and might help you fall asleep at night. See you.